Beneath Wyoming's wide-open skies and endless mountains lies a darker story of ghost towns left in silence. Historic hotels where guests never checked out, and battle-worn forts where soldiers still march through the night. These are not just legends. They are encounters whispered by locals, recorded in newspapers, and felt by every visitor who dares to step inside. Tonight, we journey through the 15 most haunted places in Wyoming, where history refuses to rest. 1. Occidental Hotel, Buffalo. On the quiet streets of Buffalo stands the Grand Occidental Hotel, a red brick relic from the late 1800s whose polished wood and dim chandeliers seem to whisper secrets from another era. Guests often describe stepping inside as though crossing a threshold between the present and a shadowy past, where the smell of old whiskey and gun smoke lingers faintly in the halls. Yet beneath the charm lies a chilling reputation. This hotel has long been rumored to be alive with spirits who refuse to leave. Visitors tell of a young woman in a flowing white dress, drifting silently through the upstairs corridors, brushing against shoulders with a cold touch before vanishing into locked rooms. Others have reported phantom piano notes rising from the empty saloon, or the sound of boots pacing slowly across the creaking floors when no one is there. One guest, in a 2006 interview with the Casper Star-Tribune, recalled being awakened at 3 a.m. by laughter echoing outside her door, only to find the hallway deserted. The tales have become so persistent that the hotel now embraces its haunted fame, even hosting ghost tours that draw thrill seekers eager to test their nerves. The mix of preserved frontier history and unexplained phenomena has made the Occidental a legend far beyond Wyoming's borders. But the question remains, when you spend a night here, are you simply sleeping in a historic inn, or are you sharing the darkness with something that never left? 2. Irma Hotel, Cody. In the heart of Cody stands the Irma Hotel, built in 1902 by none other than Buffalo Bill Cody himself, as a tribute to his beloved daughter. By day, the lobby glows with polished woodwork and the famous cherry wood bar, gifted by Queen Victoria. But as night falls, the atmosphere shifts into something far more unsettling. Guests whisper of shadows that dart across the upstairs hallways, doors that slam without a breeze, and the distinct scent of cigar smoke curling through rooms long after the last patron has gone. Room 35 is notorious. Travelers have reported their belongings being rearranged, blankets pulled away as they sleep, and a woman's soft laughter echoing in the dark. In 2014, the Cody Enterprise ran a feature on the Irma's haunted reputation, noting both staff accounts and paranormal groups who investigated and left with recordings of disembodied voices. Some even claim to have glimpsed the figure of Buffalo Bill himself, pacing proudly through the dining room as if still greeting his guests. Today, the Irma Hotel doesn't shy away from its ghostly notoriety. It's part of the experience, drawing curious visitors who come seeking history and perhaps an encounter with the otherworldly. But the real question is, if you booked a night at the Irma, would you be meeting the staff of the present or the lingering spirits of its legendary past? 3. Historic Plains, Hotel Cheyenne. In the center of Cheyenne rises the Historic Plains Hotel, an elegant brick building from 1911, whose ornate lobby hides a far darker tale. Legend tells of Rosie, a young bride who discovered her new husband in the arms of another woman. In a fit of rage, she shot them both before turning the gun on herself, sealing a tragic love triangle within the hotel's walls. Guests who stay on the upper floors have reported seeing Rosie's figure drifting through the corridors, her wedding dress stained and her eyes hollow with grief. Others describe the faint sound of sobbing echoing through empty rooms, or sudden cold spots that chill to the bone. In 2010, the Wyoming Tribune-Eagle published a feature recounting both staff and visitor testimonies, including a maid who swore she saw a blood-red shadow crawl across a guest room wall before disappearing. Paranormal investigators have since flocked to the plains, capturing unexplained voices and flickering lights on their equipment, adding fuel to its eerie legend. The hotel now embraces this haunted reputation, offering ghost tours that blend history with the unsettling presence of the past. And so, the question lingers: if you checked into the plains tonight, would you find only the comfort of a historic hotel, or wake to the restless spirit of Rosie, forever replaying her final night of betrayal? 4. Fort Bridger Historic Site, Wyoming. Amid the rolling hills of southwestern Wyoming lies Fort Bridger, once a bustling 19th century outpost on the Oregon Trail, now preserved as a historic site with a reputation steeped in ghostly lore. By daylight, its weathered cabins and barracks tell the story of pioneers, soldiers, and fur trappers. But when night falls, whispers of the past grow louder. Visitors claim to see the ghostly figure of a soldier pacing the parade grounds, his boots echoing across the earth long after the fort was abandoned. Others report the mournful howl of a phantom dog, believed to be the spirit of Thornburg, a loyal canine awarded military honors, who is said to still guard the cemetery. Staff members have recounted hearing doors slam in locked buildings and feeling an icy presence brush past them in empty rooms. The Salt Lake Tribune once highlighted Fort Bridger's haunted reputation, quoting tourists who described eerie sensations and unexplainable photographs taken within the site's stone walls. Paranormal groups, too, have flocked here, drawn by stories of soldiers and settlers who never truly left. History and legend blur in this lonely frontier post, leaving visitors to wonder when you walk its silent grounds. Are you tracing the footsteps of history or keeping company with the spirits still standing guard? 5. Wyoming Territorial Prison, Laramie. On the outskirts of Laramie stands the imposing stone walls of the Wyoming Territorial Prison, built in 1872, and once home to some of the West's most notorious outlaws, including Butch Cassidy himself. Today, it is a museum and historic site, but many say the spirits of former inmates still linger, locked in an eternal sentence. Visitors stepping into the dim cell blocks often report sudden drops in temperature, the clang of iron doors echoing through empty corridors, and the unmistakable scent of cigar smoke believed to be tied to Julius Greenwelch, a prisoner who spent his final years hand-rolling cigars within these very walls. Guides recount stories of guests who felt unseen hands brush against them or heard muffled whispers in solitary confinement, where despair once reigned. In 2012, the Laramie Boomerang covered a Halloween ghost tour at the prison, highlighting both its bloody history and the unnerving paranormal encounters shared by staff and tourists alike. Paranormal investigators have recorded phantom footsteps, distant screams, and even captured shadowy figures darting between cells. The Territorial prison may no longer hold living convicts, but its walls seem unwilling to release the restless dead. So the question remains, if you dared to spend a night here, would you walk away with only history or become part of the whispers that haunt its halls forever? 6. Old Faithful Inn, Yellowstone National Park, rising beside the world-famous geyser. The Old Faithful Inn is a towering log structure from 1904, its rustic beauty masking an atmosphere thick with unease. Guests who check into the West Wing often find themselves unsettled, for that part of the hotel was built over unmarked graves. Stories swirl of a bride in white, drifting silently through corridors, yet when witnesses look closer, they realize she is headless, clutching her bouquet in trembling hands. Others speak of a forlorn child, seen staring out of upper-floor windows before vanishing, or a woman in antique dress who appears at the edge of beds, watching silently until the guest awakes. Staff whisper about doors opening on their own, phantom piano notes drifting through the grand lobby, and cold gusts rushing through sealed rooms. In 2015, the Billings Gazette ran a feature on Yellowstone's haunted legends, citing the Old Faithful Inn as one of the most paranormally active lodges in America. And ghost tours have since drawn curious travelers, hoping for an encounter. For some, the inn is a wonder of architecture and wilderness hospitality. For others, it is a place where the veil between past and present wears dangerously thin. So when the geyser erupts outside and the inn creaks in the night, do you hear timber settling or the restless spirits that never checked out? 7. Wonderbar, Casper. In the center of Casper once stood the famous Wonderbar, a lively saloon dating back to the early 20th century, where cowboys, oilmen, and drifters came to drink, gamble, and brawl. But beneath the raucous laughter and music, a darker legend brewed. Patrons and staff alike told stories of glasses sliding off tables on their own, doors opening with no one near, and the jukebox suddenly springing to life long after the last guest had gone. Some swore they felt icy fingers brush against their necks while standing at the bar, or heard footsteps following them up the creaking stairs when the building was empty. In 2011, the Casper Star-Tribune noted the Wonderbar's haunted reputation in a piece about local ghost lore, citing employees who refused to lock up alone at night. Even after renovations and changes in ownership, these tales never faded, with paranormal investigators reporting unexplained voices and shadows that darted across the basement walls. The Wonderbar was eventually closed and repurposed, but the stories remain embedded in Casper's folklore. So the next time you pass its old brick exterior, ask yourself, did the ghosts of the Wonderbar move on with time, or are they still waiting for one more drink in the dark? 8. Fossil Cabin, Como Bluff. Along the windswept ridge of Como Bluff stands one of the strangest landmarks in America, the Fossil Cabin, built in 1932 entirely from more than 5,000 real dinosaur bones. At first glance, it looks like a quirky roadside attraction, but locals whisper of something far more unsettling. Travelers who dared to stop here at night reported hearing scraping sounds against the stone walls, as if claws were dragging across the fossilized remains. Others spoke of low growls echoing inside the cabin, even though no animals were present, and a chilling sensation of being watched from the shadows. A Life magazine article from the 1930s once called it the oldest building in the world because of its prehistoric construction. But modern visitors have given it a darker nickname, the most haunted house made of bones. Paranormal enthusiasts claim that disturbing the fossils may have stirred spirits from a time long before humans, leaving an energy that lingers within its walls. Today, the Fossil Cabin is closed to the public, yet stories still surface of strange lights flickering around it on stormy nights. So when you gaze upon those ancient bones cemented into the cabin's frame, you have to wonder, Are you looking at a monument to history, or a doorway to something that was never meant to wake again? 9. Kerwin Ghost Town, near Meeteetse High in the Absaroka Mountains, shrouded by forests and snow, lies the abandoned mining town of Kerwin. Once a bustling community of prospectors in the early 1900s, it was suddenly deserted after a deadly avalanche in 1907 claimed several lives. Ever since, the place has carried an eerie weight, as if the mountains themselves remember the tragedy. Visitors who hike the rugged trail up to Kerwin often describe an oppressive silence, broken only by the wind whistling through collapsed cabins. Some say they've seen figures moving among the ruins, miners still carrying lanterns, their faces pale and hollow. Others report hearing the distant clang of pickaxes, though the mines have been sealed for over a century. In 2017, Cowboys and Indians magazine ran a feature on Wyoming's ghost towns, calling Kerwin one of the most haunting, and noted that even explorers who don't believe in the supernatural admit to a strange unease there. The town's most famous connection is that aviator Amelia Earhart planned to build a summer cabin nearby before her disappearance, a fact that only deepens the lore. Today, Kerwin remains a place frozen in time, abandoned to the wilds, so when you step among its decaying buildings, are you walking in a forgotten town or in the footsteps of spirits that never escaped the avalanche? 10. Miner's Delight. Hamilton City, Atlantic City area, tucked in the rugged hills near South Pass. The ghost town, once known as Hamilton City, later renamed Miner's Delight, still clings to life through its weathered cabins and crumbling saloons. Founded in the 1860s during Wyoming's gold rush, the town boomed quickly, then faded just as fast, leaving behind only whispers of its rowdy past. Visitors wandering through the ruins often report hearing boots crunching on gravel behind them, only to turn and find no one there. Others claim to see fleeting figures peering from broken windows, their faces obscured by the shadows of lantern light. According to a 2003 article in the Casper Star-Tribune, preservationists restoring the town heard phantom laughter and the distinct notes of a fiddle drifting through the empty streets, echoes of miners who once celebrated hard-won fortunes. Paranormal groups have since visited, capturing strange orbs in photographs and unexplained EVP recordings from inside the old mercantile. Locals say the spirits linger because the gold they sought was never enough to free them from the mountain's grip. Now the Miner's Delight is part of Wyoming's Ghost Town Heritage Site, drawing those curious enough to step into its haunted silence. But the question remains when you walk its abandoned streets. Are you alone with history or surrounded by the restless miners still chasing their elusive treasure? 11. Atlantic City Ghost Town, Fremont County, nestled along the South Pass. Atlantic City was once a booming mining town in the mid-1800s, home to hundreds of fortune seekers chasing gold in the Wind River Mountains. Today, only a scattering of weather-beaten houses, saloons, and cabins remain, standing as fragile skeletons of a bygone era. Visitors describe an uncanny stillness here, broken by the occasional creak of timber or the hollow slam of a door when no wind blows. Some hikers say they've seen a lone prospector wandering the hills, lantern in hand, vanishing before they can call out. Others report the faint sound of voices drifting from the long-abandoned Atlantic City mercantile, as if the miners are still debating their luck at the tables. In 2019, WyoFile featured Atlantic City among Wyoming's eeriest ghost towns. noting how even skeptics admitted to feeling watched while exploring its ruins. Paranormal enthusiasts have captured strange lights flickering in the upper windows of buildings with no power for decades, fueling tales that the spirits of miners never left. Today, Atlantic City survives as both a tourist curiosity and a haunted reminder of dreams cut short. And so the question lingers when you walk its dirt streets. Do you hear only the wind across the mountains, or the echoes of gold fever that refuses to die? 12. South Pass, City, Fremont County. On the edge of the Wind River Mountains lies South Pass City, once a thriving gold rush boomtown in the 1860s, now carefully preserved as a historic site. Its weathered saloons, abandoned cabins, and creaking boardwalks transport visitors back to an era of lawmen, prospectors, and gamblers. Yet beneath its charm, a darker energy seems to cling to the streets. Tourists have reported sudden chills sweeping through the Carissa Saloon, while others claim to hear phantom piano music drifting into the night air. A former caretaker once described seeing a man in a wide-brimmed hat standing motionless in the upstairs window of the Exchange Hotel, only to vanish when approached. In 2015, the Casper Star-Tribune highlighted South Pass City's haunted reputation, citing both staff and visitors who had unnerving encounters during late-night tours. Paranormal investigators have captured mysterious orbs on camera and faint, raspy voices in the deserted jailhouse, as though the inmates never truly left. Today, South Pass City draws both history lovers and ghost hunters, blending fact with folklore in every weathered beam. But when you step onto its silent boardwalks at dusk, you must wonder, are you exploring a restored mining town, or walking among restless spirits who refuse to let go of their golden past? 13. Superior, near Rock Springs. Hidden in the hills outside Rock Springs lies the remnants of Superior, a once thriving coal mining town that flourished in the early 1900s before collapsing into silence when the mines shut down. The skeletal remains of homes, union halls, and mining buildings still dot the barren landscape, their broken windows staring like hollow eyes into the past. Travelers who wander through these ruins speak of uneasy sensations, footsteps crunching behind them on gravel, shadows moving across doorways where no one stands. Former residents have told stories of miners who died in cave-ins or accidents, their spirits lingering near the abandoned shafts. In 2009, the Rock Springs rocket miner published a feature on Superior's ghostly reputation, quoting locals who avoided the site at night, convinced that the cries of lost miners still echo in the wind. Paranormal investigators have claimed to capture strange electromagnetic spikes and faint voices calling from beneath the earth, as though the men are still trapped below. The town has long since died, but its legends remain alive, whispered across Sweetwater County. So when you step among the ruins of Superior, you must ask yourself, are you walking through an empty coal town or into the restless memories of those who never made it out of the mines? 14. Fort Laramie Historic Site, Goshen County, once a vital military post on the western frontier. Fort Laramie stands today as a carefully preserved historic site where echoes of war, treaties, and tragedy still linger in the air. Beneath the bright Wyoming sky, its weathered barracks and crumbling officers' quarters conceal stories that stir unease among visitors. Soldiers on night watch have been reported long after the fort was decommissioned. Phantom figures in uniform pacing the parade ground, their boots striking the earth in perfect rhythm. Tourists have described sudden icy drafts sweeping through sealed rooms, or the faint murmur of voices in the old sutler's store, as if deals are still being made in the dead of night. Rangers tell of a spectral woman in a long dress who glides silently through the officers' quarters before vanishing into the walls. In 2016, the Casper Star-Tribune covered Fort Laramie's ghostly lore, noting both staff encounters and ghost tours that highlight its eerie reputation. Paranormal investigators have since captured unexplained shadows and recorded whispers that seem to call out names from a century past. The fort is no longer defended by soldiers of flesh and blood, but perhaps by spirits who never received orders to stand down. So when you walk beneath its silent arches, are you stepping into history or joining a garrison that never left? 15. Winton, Sweetwater County. Tucked away in the barren stretches of Sweetwater County lies Winton, once a bustling coal mining town that thrived in the early 1900s before collapsing under the weight of economic downturns, deadly accidents, and brutal winters. Today, little remains but scattered foundations and weather-beaten ruins. Yet locals insist the spirits of Winton have never truly departed. Hikers exploring the site have reported ghostly lantern lights bobbing in the darkness near collapsed mine shafts, only to vanish without a trace. Others speak of disembodied voices drifting across the empty hills, miners calling out orders, or the cries of men trapped below after catastrophic cave-ins. In 2018, the Rock Springs rocket miner published a piece on Sweetwater's ghost towns, noting Winton's eerie reputation and the reluctance of older residents to speak about its tragic past. Paranormal groups who ventured here claim to have captured chilling EVPs, raspy whispers begging for help, and unexplained knocks echoing from beneath the ground. By day, Winton is a forgotten dot on Wyoming's map, a relic of coal country's rise and fall. But when night descends on its lonely ruins, the question becomes impossible to ignore. Are you standing in an abandoned town, or among the restless dead still trapped in the mines below? From abandoned mines to grand hotels, Wyoming holds more than just stories of the Old West. It holds spirits that time could not erase. Some say they're only echoes of history. Others swear they are still alive in the shadows. But the real question is, if you found yourself alone in one of these haunted places, would you be brave enough to stay until morning?